So in this video, I'm going to give you the most common signs and symptoms of SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. Then you can get an idea of, hey, maybe is this a problem for me or not? Because all cool kids have SIBO now. Let's jump in.
TC Hale is not a doctor and does not claim to be a doctor or licensed in any type of medical field. Don't be an idiot and use anything heard on the show as medical advice. This information should be used for educational purposes only, and you should contact your doctor for any medical advice. Now get off me.
So we'll talk a little bit about these common symptoms that can show up when somebody's dealing with some type of bacterial overgrowth in the small intestine. But to understand why these symptoms will show up can be helpful, because then it can help you really figure out what may be going on with you. It can really vary from person to person. So we want to look at the fact that we got a stomach here, and then we got some small intestine. That's kind of what we're talking about here, the small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And then we have the large intestine. So we should have bacteria in this large intestine. That's where our good gut flora should be. Helps us digest food, make vitamins, all these good things. They're good guys. Thanks for coming out. But we don't really want a lot of bacteria in this small intestine or in the stomach. They don't really belong there. But in today's world, it is very common. And one issue is that when we eat food, our stomach should make hydrochloric acid, or HCl. And that acid is meant to help us start to acidify that food so that we can break it down and get the nutrients out of that food. That's kind of what we want. But it's very common for someone not to be making enough stomach acid, and that's problematic when we're talking about SIBO, because the acid doesn't just help us break down that food, it's also the barrier to the whole digestive system. When varmints come in on the food that we're eating, like bacteria and all these microorganisms, and they're coming in on the food that we're eating, we can't really avoid that. But when they come in, they should die in an acid bath. That HCl should fry them so they don't make it into the system. So when someone's not making enough HCl, well, now the bacteria can come in, they set up camp in the stomach. They're like, oh, this is a nice place. Let's have a camp here. Let's have a keg party. We'll raise kids. It's going to be a great time. So then they establish in the stomach. They can create a lot of digestive symptoms and other malfunctions and trouble along the way, but they also will make it down into this small intestine. So a lot of times this small intestinal bacterial overgrowth is available because they didn't get fried in the stomach. So sometimes what we have to figure out is this discomfort I'm having in the stomach? Because a lot of these symptoms we're going to go over can happen in the stomach, but a lot of them can happen further down the line in the small intestine as well. And in most cases, if they're happening in the stomach, they're either also happening in the small intestine or eventually going to happen in the small intestine as this bacteria that shouldn't be there makes their way down into the small intestine. So let's look at some of these symptoms so we can understand why we might be experiencing those. So the common symptoms for SIBO are burping or bloating and gas and abdominal pain. When we're looking at these types of things, a lot of these bacteria will put off gas. That's part of what they create while they're inside our intestinal tract. And this gas has to escape, so then we're like, oh man, we have gas. And this burping or bloating, what happens is the bloat can come from just the expansion that happens from all of those gases that the bacteria create. Some people might burp more to allow that gas to escape. Some people might pass gas more. Some people might bloat, where their intestinal tract or stomach just expands and they feel more bloated. A common sign for this is excessive fullness after meals. We're like, oh my gosh, I cannot take another bite. I'm going to explode. And if you think about what's happening, you have the food that went in here, but if you also have all these gases and pressure that are being added from the bacteria in the wrong places, then those gases can expand and make us feel even more full than we actually are. Some people will completely lose their appetite because a lot of this bacteria puts off waste that are basically toxins. It's like a bunch of people pooping in your body. How's that going to be a good thing? That's going to create a toxic environment, and a lot of times the body's just like, don't send anything else down here. We're still dealing with the mess from this last stuff you sent down here. So a person just will feel like, I don't want to eat, or maybe they'll feel a little bit nauseous because the body's having a hard time getting rid of all the toxins, not only from the bacteria, but a lot of times the waste product that the bacteria will put out either in the stomach or in the small intestine can be alkaline. And remember, this stomach should not be alkaline. It should be in an acidic state. So they'll set up camp in there and put out this alkaline waste and make it a better environment for them to thrive, but it's making you less better environment for you to be able to digest your food. You don't want less better. Do people say less better? I don't know. I just said less better. But you don't want less better. You want to be able to acidify that food. So a lot of times this nausea can come from not only the waste that the bacteria is putting out, but if they're creating an alkaline environment where you can't really break down that food correctly, then the food has to rot and ferment, and that can create even more gases and toxins and a bunch of junk that just the body's like, ugh, I don't want any more. Get it out of here. Some people may also have diarrhea. A lot of times the body might say, hey, I just want to get all this stuff out of here as fast as it can. It'll go shooting out the back door. People deal with constipation because our stool can move through the body at a pace according to its acidity level. And if there's a lot of bacteria in here creating an overly alkaline environment, it can make that stool more alkaline, especially if the food was not acidified correctly in the stomach. Then it's going to be even more alkaline, and it'll move slower, and then it gets hard and dry, and then we can't poop. And like, well, how come all my friends can poop? I just want to poop. But a lot of times it has to do with the stool that's leaning too far on that alkaline side. Now there's other causes of constipation. And if you are constipated and you want to learn more about the other possible causes of constipation, a lot of times people are dealing with more than one cause. We'll put a link in the description below for a video on understanding constipation so you can check that out. Some people will deal with unintentional weight loss or malnutrition. And a lot of times these little varmints are getting all your good stuff. You know, they're eating all your nutrition and they're getting it before you can call dibs. A lot of times we absorb a lot of this stuff in here and in here, but if they're accessing it before you have first shot at it, then you might not get as many nutrients. Also, if you can't really acidify your food, you can't access all the nutrients in that food. So you might be already a little bit depleted just from an inability to break your food down. So you can see that all these symptoms can be problematic. There's not anything on there that's a good time. There's not anything else that you're going to post on Facebook, hey, I got some nausea cranking out. So we don't want any of these things, but if you understand what's happening, you can also see that this can create a lot more trouble just by the increase in toxicity that the body has to deal with, the decrease in its access to nutrients, minerals, and other things that the body needs to be able to function correctly. So this is a big deal. This is something you really want to fix. Just remember, none of these symptoms are diagnostic of any of this stuff. I'm not giving you any type of medical advice or diagnosis when you're looking at these symptoms. These are just signs of things that might be going on. And you can check with your doctor to do actual tests. They do like breath tests. There's some other methods that they use, but they can kind of get an indication of what type of bacteria may be going on by is it giving off a methane gas or a hydrogen gas, and they can give you specific protocols for that type of bacteria. But if you already know that you have SIBO and you want to look at some things that you might be able to do on your own to improve your ability to get past this a little bit faster, then you can jump over right now and check out our video on how to fix SIBO fast so you can gain insights into some steps that you can take to maybe speed this process up. I can't wait to hear about your results.